PMP exam students' mastery of the content needed for the exam is not about excruciating details. While that is not a bad thing, passing the exam is all about unlocking the code for thinking and seeing the big picture. So today, I'm going to show you a big picture view of the PMBOK guide, 6th, 7th, a little bit of Agile, and some of the processes that you should focus on for your exam. Right off the bat, project management can be understood as applying knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to achieve the project goal. Now, it starts off with an understanding of the 12 principles of project management from the lens of the PMI. Now, I know some of you are used to managing projects outside of PMI's framework, but if you're taking PMI's exam, I would advise you to at least be familiar with the 12 principles. The 12 principles are straightforward. 1, take care of what is entrusted to you. Be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. 2, think of we versus me. Create a collaborative project team environment. This is what servant leaders do. 3, effectively engage with stakeholders. In other words, collaborate with them and bring them into the project as needed. 4, focus on value. What is a true measure of progress? It's all about that working product. Working products deliver value when done the right way. It's not enough to say we delivered a working product. That product should give benefits back to the customer. And the things that we do need to be value driven. If it's not value driven, don't do it. Recognize, evaluate, and respond to systems interactions. See the big picture view. 6, demonstrate leadership behaviors. 7, tailor the processes based on context. Whatever method or framework you're using, be sure to tailor it based on the project context. 8, build quality into processes and deliverables. Fitness for use, conformance to requirements, and customer satisfaction, and that's quality. 9, navigate complexity, be it system behavior, human behavior, or ambiguity. Navigate complexity with intentionality. 10, optimize risk responses. Be sure that you are responding the best way possible to positive risks and negative risks. 11, embrace adaptability and resiliency, the ability to bounce back from change, from difficulty. And number 12, enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. So if you are taking PMI's exam, understand this lens of the 12 project management principles, because this is what everything else could be based on. Now, these 12 principles are based on the PMI Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. If you haven't already read that and you're not aware of the 4 values talked about in the PMI Code of Ethics, I would advise you to read that document. Now, when you understand these 12 principles, then we can build what we do, the actions, the things that we carry out. We call these groups of processes. We have the initiating process group, authorizing the project, planning process group, planning out what needs to be done, the executing process group, executing the plan, the monitoring and controlling process group, checking the work to make sure it's going according to plan, and lastly, the closing process group, closing out a project or a phase in the project. Now, when you have this understanding of groups of things you do, we then begin to build an understanding of knowledge needed to act accordingly on the project to carry out all of those tasks on the project. Also think about these as skills. They are as follows: integration, being able to integrate the entire project; scope, being able to scope out the project; schedule, developing a timeline and managing it; cost, developing a budget and managing it; quality, understanding those quality targets, those goals, and making sure that they are met; resource management, human, equipment, material, supplies, and facilities all categories of resources we manage here. When we talk about the human resources, we use the word lead. When we talk about the physical resources, we use the word control. Communications, what are we going to communicate, why and when? Risk, how do we manage uncertainty that can impact the project? Procurement, what are we going to buy from outside the firm to get this project done? And lastly, stakeholder, people that the project could affect and people who are affected by the project. Now, if we take every single one of these, we could blow them up even further. Let's do that one by one. Now, let's take a look at just integration. When you take a look at integration and how it relates to the big picture, as you are studying for your exam, I want you to go to the next level and understand what exactly is in integration. So think about it like this. You're going to zero into integration as you study, and you're going to begin to go through at a mid-level what happens in integration. We develop the project charter, we develop the project management plan, we direct and manage the project work, we manage project knowledge, we monitor and control the project work, we perform integrated change control by taking these change requests and analyzing them and going through a change process to either approve or reject them. We close the project or phase. Now, as you study, be sure to identify what you get out of each process. From develop project charter, you get a project charter and assumption log. From develop project management plan, the project management plan. From direct and manage project work, deliverables, issue log, and work performance data. From manage project knowledge, the lessons learned register. From monitor and control project work, work performance report. From perform integrated change control, we get the change log and approved change requests. And from close project or phase, we get final product, service, or result transitions. So what we did was we took one knowledge area and we zeroed into it to understand what exactly is done at a mid-level in that knowledge area. For your exam, I would advise you to understand the knowledge area and going into the lower levels. Also understand what the process does. Also be sure to understand what you get from each process, because this is only going to solidify your understanding. Now, for example, as you go through certain processes, such as perform integrated change control, you need to understand the intricacies of what happens here, because you could be asked questions about change requests and the change process on a project. So if I were you, I would seek to understand what happens in a change request sequence. For example, a stakeholder asks for a request. You ask for it to be put into formal writing, or you might even help them put it in formal writing. You log the change request in the change log, you analyze it. The project manager sends the change request to the change control board. Change control board review the change request and the analysis sent in. The change control board decides the outcome. The project manager or CCB member documents the outcome in a change log. The change log is shared with stakeholders, and the project manager and the team carry out the next steps if the change request was approved. But bear in mind, you could also have a diversion at point 6 here. The change control board could ask for more information. They could negotiate with the requester for something similar, but not exactly what they asked for in the beginning. Also bear in mind that the customer and the sponsor may not be part of the change control board, and therefore you need to get them involved. And when that's done, you anchor back into the main flow and you decide what is the outcome: approve, reject, put on hold, or pending status. So as you go through every one of these knowledge areas, understand at a high level first how everything interrelates, initiating, planning all the way, and all of the knowledge areas, how the principles map, and then begin tunneling deeper into each one. If you haven't watched each one of my 1-minute summary videos, I'm going to put a link below so that you can watch all of these videos and rapidly identify what happens in every process by virtue of the outputs. What do you get out? What is the high-level gist of this knowledge area? This will save you a ton of time because on the exam, my friends, what you are going to see is not parrot fashion. What comes out of here? What goes into there? No. Could that help you in understanding the lingo? Yes. But I guarantee you the questions will not be input-output questions on the PMP exam. Instead, you will have situational type of questions. And these questions will get into the logic. Do you really know what is happening here? Do you really understand the intricacies of the process? And if the answer is yes, then of course you'll do well. But if you don't know the intricacies of the process, it could be very hard. So I'm going to ask you some very basic questions. I just want to illustrate to you the nature of questions. Sometimes they could actually look like common sense questions, but they're not common sense questions. They are truly situational questions based on your understanding of the PMP exam content. So let's take a look right now at some very straightforward questions. You're working on a project as a team facilitator. You have identified that there's conflict among 4 team members who have formed factions. What is the best course of action for this situation? So I'll let you read the question, but I want to point out to you how this question has no process language. None. Instead, the question will test your cognition. Do you understand the problem? And are you able to choose the best solution? That is a lot of what you'll find on the exam. So, without getting into too much detail about the answer is not solving the problem for the team. Instead, it is being as much a facilitator as possible, not solving the conflict. At the same time, not getting involved is not helping matters. You need to get involved to the degree that is appropriate. It's not about finding who is in the wrong. That is not in the spirit of conflict resolution from the lens of the PMI. We want to solve the problem, move it forward, get people on common ground. So the best answer is B. And this is a direct cutout from the PMP exam content outline. Evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate resolution solution. Direct cutout of the content outline. Here's another question. A new team member just joined the project with very little experience. However, she's very confident in herself and her abilities to learn. She's very eager to take on work. Which leadership approach should you use with her? Again, this is one where there's no mention of process, no mention of knowledge area. And I'm telling you, over half of your questions will have very vanilla flavored agnostic type language, where it could be, oh, this is not necessarily predictive. This is not necessarily agile. It's in the middle of the road. And that's why people say, oh, my exam was hybrid. Here's another one. The answer to this, by the way, is C, directing. This is based on the Hersey-Blanchard model, which is also mentioned implicitly in the PMP exam content outline. As a servant leader on an Agile project, one of your key responsibilities is to, again, no mention of process. No mention of process. I'll show you a few more and we'll be done for the day. The product owner often works with the team to prepare some stories for the upcoming iteration during one or more sessions in the middle of the iteration. The purpose of these meetings is to refine enough stories So the team understands what the stories are and how large the stories are in relation to each other. What does this describe? So this one, again, not explicit, none in your PMBOK guide, more agile oriented. Let's take a look at one more. The answer to this, by the way, is backlog refinement. Here's one more question. So take a look at the length of the question, take a look at the language and how it's posed. And then take a look at the options. Okay, and based on what you know about the PMP exam content outline, you should be able to select the correct option, which is B. Okay, so my friends, I hope with all that we've covered today, you understand why I am telling you, beyond going into the deep dregs and trying to dump page 25, okay, beyond all of this, there's a higher level of understanding in all ramifications, higher level in terms of importance, higher level in terms of overview. You really need an overview of, okay, what is happening where, what is being done where, what is being done on the project, high level, okay? Then when you understand at this high enough level, you also need to complement this with a good understanding of the world of Agile. And in order to do this, you should have a high level understanding of predictive versus iterative versus incremental versus Agile. Page 18 in the Agile practice guide. You should understand this page before you exam, because you need to be able to sniff out iterative versus incremental, incremental versus predictive, predictive versus Agile. If you don't have this understanding, you will struggle on the exam. Okay. Another set of concepts that I highly espouse that you understand way beyond page 25 is the key things on page 25 that make the project tick. Because you could get questions on what I call the PMBOK guide mainline. It's not everything, but there's a mainline that goes through 11 major processes. And these 11 major processes give you the deliverable in a way that it is checked, it is verified through the right channels, and you get the output. So you see all these ones in orange, those are all from integration. And now you know why I focused on integration in the beginning, because if you understand integration, you understand how a lot of other things revolve around it. There are two very important ones in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Integration, everything else could be coordinated through integration, but we also have risk, and everything has some risk component, even integration. And that's why in the image I showed you, you saw risk in the middle. But going beyond this, you need to master, in my mind, if anything, the PMBOK guide mainline. And you can find a video where I walk through this entire map. But this will really enrich your understanding of how project management works through PMI's lens, so that you'll do awesome on your exam without going into so much minutia. The minutia is good, but it will not help you very much on the exam because PMI's focus has shifted. So courses where you have an unending amount of predictive, it's not bad, but it needs to be balanced up a whole lot more with Agile. So if you're learning all of this stuff, my friends, you also need to remember the Agile lens. And the Agile lens means you are focusing on understanding the Agile Manifesto. agilemanifesto.org is where you can get the Agile Manifesto. And my advice to you is really understand what it means. Understand the nuts and bolts of the manifesto, understand the values, and understand the 12 principles really well. Internalize them. And this is another piece that will help you on the exam. If you haven't watched my Agile manifesto explanations, I would advise you to look at the PMP journey on our channel. Those videos, they'll really help you. And they help you balance this stuff up because there are two perspectives, okay? It's not just predictive. You also need to know Agile very, very well. In fact, really well. You do know that many of the teams that use Agile use Scrum. So if you haven't paid attention to the 3-5-3 configuration for Scrum, 3 roles, 5 ceremonies, and 3 artifacts, this is something you also need to focus on. If you have not mastered the flow of Scrum and really understood the intricacies of each of these ceremonies at a deeper level to understand what the 3-5-3 means, look for my videos on Scrum and you'll see how this is broken down in a very straightforward and pragmatic fashion. This could also help you on your test. So there are lots of videos on this channel. There are tons of videos. And if you just look at PMP Journey, you can start with that playlist and then you can navigate through, and this will help you better understand the values, the principles, and there's so much stuff we have on this channel that cuts across not just PMP, but also project management, all right? So search for those videos. You got any questions, you let me know. All the very best, and bye for now.